Today, I wanted to share about what we see in other people. And really, until we've uncovered enough of who we truly are and are moving in that direction and are no longer blaming or judging, or at least aware of the fact that it was a blame or a judgment and why we're doing it and taking the steps to course correct in the moments, we really are only seeing the versions of others that are based on their trauma. Like, we don't really know the people in our lives until we know why they are doing what they are doing. And if it's no longer like triggering you and you're able to tolerate it, you've gotten yourself to, or they've changed, like you've got a new version of them, you actually are in a new reality. And when we understand where they're coming from and we're no longer judging them, that's where there's so much peace coming in. When you can have grace for the fact that people like our parents who didn't have the same opportunities we've had to work with the light, to talk about the light, to talk about the light and the dark and neutralizing them, right? And not having judgment for either. Like, just if I think about just this podcast, like being able to share this openly, no matter who listens to it. I was going to say reads, but no matter, well, maybe there's some captions, right? But no matter who listens to it, this is something that in their time wouldn't have been accepted at all. So we're moving forward, and it's all for a reason. It's all there, but just when we realize that we don't even know what their traumatized conditioned self, we can have tons of grace. We can operate without judgment. And when you clear judgment, like, everything changes, because that's the mirror. Like, anything we judge is actually judging you, yourself. So now if a judgment creeps in, I can have grace for what's happening, for why somebody is doing what they're doing, because I understand it. But at the same time, I can ask myself, why am I judging myself? And for the most part, all of those, I understand why I judge myself, or why a judgment might pop up about somebody else. For the most part, a lot of my judgment is gone, but it's still something that I'm working through, because I had so much self-judgment. There was so much shame and so much guilt, and I've had to give myself a lot of grace. It is a beautiful morning in Wisconsin here, and I just have the amazing view of the park, and it rains, so listening to the rain sounds and the birds, and it's just a really good moment to take that all in and share that with you. So, I'm walking the walk, and it gets easier every moment that I stay in it. There's less and less judgment. And anything that does pop up really is just coming from any insecurities that still remain. So last week, a couple was fighting across the street, and it was completely neutral. They were just walking by the house across the street, and I didn't feel anything. I understood like what was happening, but there was no judgment. There was no contraction. I was just a witness to it, and it happened again while I was recording a podcast for getting paid just to be me over on Patreon, and that was about that one was about breaking the rules, where I share a little bit more intimately about breaking the rules. But I actually heard somebody in a house screaming at the top of their lungs a couple houses down the block, and they were saying like, how many times do I have to tell you, right? And like, it was completely neutral. It did hit a mirror that I've been working through, but I responded neutrally and without judgment or contraction. So this is when you're actually seeing the dissolval of what's going on, so that you can just live in joy. And like, this is happening while I was shooting baskets, like living in joy. So this is where we actually now live. I can say it over and over that the biggest thing that's coming through for me in the last year and a half is just living, just being. That is spirituality. And that is actually a like a podcast that's been coming through kind of overnight. And maybe we'll kind of run into that right now, that just living and being and understanding others in the world, being in the world, you know, like being in the world, but not of it. That is the most glorious thing. That when you see that, when you get through the illusion and you realize that everybody just is where they are and that's okay for their journey, that is life-changing. Because you just live then, and you are able to have compassion and grace and understanding. And if it is hitting you and touching you in a way that's contracting, or even not, even, you know, if it's expanding, you get to feel it all and choose. Like, I prefer peace. I prefer grace. I prefer to have myself in places, around people and places and things that reflect the choices I want to see in my life. And that's what starts to change. That's what keeps you in your alignment. So it's pretty neat. Like, yesterday I was at an event. I actually volunteered for Pole Factory Milwaukee to at the Pride Parade, the block party. And that was like with promotions and actually doing some pole demonstrations. So one of the passions I really enjoy is pole dancing. I used to do a lot of fitness, a lot of exercise, strength training, and it just wasn't me. I'm not passionate about being in the gym lifting weights anymore. Maybe at some point I may do that a little bit here and there. I don't know. I'm not discounting anything. But I wanted to do something that was fun. And so I came into pole dancing, and it's like passionate. So I'm living, and I wanted to get stronger, but I also wanted to like work on that sensuality. And like, the cool thing about it is I get to see like where my body's rigid, where I'm holding back, where I feel nervous. It also like butts up against body image issues that I've had in the past. So in order to, and I actually did a podcast for Patreon as well that went a little bit more into what I was feeling and dissolving in the moments that I did before and after I went. And I'm going to thread those together and get those up. But like just the fact that like following the passions of wanting to pole dance and how fun it is and how strong you have to be, and that like in order to grip the pole, like you have to have your skin bare in certain areas or at certain times. So that's one, allowing me to live my passions, but two, like doing it as I am with little bits of clothes on at times, and like going through those processes of what I feel comfortable about. And there's more on that whole experience on Patreon, or there will be once it's uploaded. I'm still actually getting the whole site together, and I'm not pushing, because if you've been following along, right, now we just do, we don't hustle. And in the Honoring Cycles podcast, I believe I posted yesterday, like this is winter week for me. So I'm just chilling this morning. You know, I have a cup of coffee and I'm sitting watching outside, but I felt compelled to do this. Like I wanted to do this. So it's not like I'm doing nothing, but I'm doing what my body's asking for. And today it is more rest this morning. I was able to sleep in a little later, and we're doing all that without guilt. Like we're doing that because that's what's available in the moment. The body asked for rest. I gave it rest. I don't feel guilty about it. And if I do, I get to dissolve that in those moments. So when you live, everything changes. Everything changes. You go from worrying about the tiniest things to just doing what is joyful in the moment. And sometimes that's sitting. Again, this isn't adrenalized joy. Like spirituality is just living with other people in this world. And that's like the coolest thing. So it's not isolating or hiding. And again, there's a time and a place where you may isolate or even be in solitude and communion with yourself for a while. But we came here to live, to experience life, to play with it, to play through it. So can you, just feel into like what some of the favorite things you have that you like to do are? As I can share, like just walking, sometimes those slow, like nature, just not a hustle walk. Like I used to go out and walk, and people in town would say, I saw you running. And I was like, I don't run. Like, I didn't run for like, I always enjoyed walks, but I would I guess I would just race through them because maybe there was a parallel reality where I was running, right? But, like that is just one of the things that feels so in tune with me, is just getting on the trail and going for like a nice, slow, peaceful walk in the woods. And sometimes it's more like energetic. Sometimes we're doing things that involve, and that's why I want to keep my body healthy. But instead of taking it to the extent of like injuring my body or wanting it to look a certain way because of shame, like doing things that I enjoy, like pool or certain stretches and things like that. But actually living and getting out and like connecting with people. So when we talk about like always wanting to do it ourselves. Like I want to be independent. I don't want to need anybody else. Okay, I would prefer to do it myself rather than saying I don't want to. I would prefer to have my own income and being independent and free. However, that doesn't mean that people aren't going to be resourceful for us. So we are meant to have human connection, to be connected, to help one another, to assist one another, to have somebody else that enjoys doing the things that you're like, that is not super fun for me. And you will come across things that you do that there's some resistance to, and like working through that is the block. But then you will come across things that you know how to do. You've worked through it. You just don't prefer it. Like you would prefer that you did something else in that time. And when you are in alignment and you're doing those things you enjoy, like that's when the resources start coming in. That's when somebody helps you either one, learn the thing that you've been resistant to, or two, like somebody comes in and says, I really enjoy doing that. Can I help you with that? And you're like, yes, this is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you. So I can't stress enough. But we won't say stress because it doesn't feel stressful. It's just the emphasis on living as spirituality. Life is your meditation. There are days that my body naturally falls into meditation, or I want to sit and sometimes I'm just sitting and it happens, or I'm walking and it happens, where I'm in a walking meditation. There's other times where I consciously sit down and still meditate, and even some breath. However, it's not in management. It's in just allowing what is coming through in the moment. Sometimes a metaphor comes through and it's just fitting, and I allow that to integrate. There are still affirmations that will come through, but the bottom line is the nervous system isn't necessarily going to be trained into coherence and regulation by just saying mantras and kind of studying your knowledge way through. Like you have to be in positions in your life that show your body that you are safe. And that's done by living. That's done by actually being in those positions. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It just has to be consistent. A little bit here, a little bit there, but like consistently doing it and like putting yourself in new places so that you're calibrating to the energy that you prefer. Like just sitting in your house, visualizing the life that you want isn't necessarily going to put you in that life if that's all you're doing. There has to be some inspired action that's coming through. And that's what you do. The inspired action comes through. That's the next joyful moment. It might feel a little scary, but you sit with it and allow the joy that's telling you this is what I want to do next to lead you. Like that's where the nervous system calibrates. That's where you're like, oh, I can do this. So it's not always easy, but it's so worth it. And the more you do the little pieces and put yourself here and there, the easier it gets. But we're always going to be expanding. So we're always going to be going in a direction that is calibrating us more and more to who we truly are. And because we're doing that, we might always have the contraction to expand, right? Just like birth. Birth is messy, it's contracting, but there's life on the other side of it. And that's what life is. Life is there's contraction and expansion. And sometimes the contractions are just to clear out what's inside so that you can grow. And other times they're just guiding you, like that's not the way. So we learn our contractions, like it's saying, nope, don't turn left right now, go right. Don't go talk to that person right now. Go talk to that person. Don't talk to anybody right now, right? Put yourself here, not there. And that's your alignment, that's your intuition, right? And if there's any kind of like judgment or fear of certain things in there, those are things for you to dissolve. But we listen to the part that's intuitive and recall that programs and patterns, like they can sound just like your intuition too. So this is about like reading your energy and living it, but really just getting in life and doing those things you really, really prefer and making the choice, because you cannot choose wrong. You can never choose wrong. You just have to choose. So there was a time where like I couldn't make a choice. And sometimes I still catch myself in it too, probably more often than I'm admitting, right? But it was like I got to think about this. I have to meditate on it. I have to feel it. And at some point, like you just make the choice and see what happens. You just live the choice, because you'll get the feedback, like you'll get the biofeedback with the choice at some point. And you can't get it wrong. You just can't. And wherever you went was the right choice anyways, or the correct alignment. But there's always like the next like aligned choice rather than right choice. And that starts to come through more. Like this is the aligned choice. You start to feel it. It just starts, you start to hear it. So wherever you are, I encourage you to live it. And if you're resonating with me, you've done the work. Like you're living in joy now. You're leading in joy, or at least you know that's your calling, that like you have leadership in you in joy, and you know that when you lead in joy, it comes back to fill you up and embody more joy. Like you already kind of feel that, or you're starting to feel it, and it's resonating more and more. So whatever nuggets you take from this today, comment. Tell me where you're leading in joy, where you're really starting to see that everybody's living from just like you were and still are in certain areas, like leading from their conditioning. And like anything that's coming up. And we'll talk again soon.